Sharita Whitehead with Whitehead Realty, and I'm here today with Cindy Csharp with Avadian Credit Union. We're going to be talking to you about the basics of VA loans. Thank you so much, Cindy, for meeting with me today.
Well, thank you, Sharita. I'm very happy to be here. Just to give everybody a little information, my name is Cindy Csharp. I'm a loan officer with Avadian Credit Union. I have been in the mortgage business for over 25 years. I have been a loan officer for 17 of that.
Well, good. So let's jump right into it. First question that I have for you, how are VA loans different than a typical loan?
VA loans are an amazing loan program. It is a special program just for veterans and also spouses of deceased veterans who died of a service-connected reason. It offers our military a benefit that they have worked hard for and that they deserve. It offers 100% financing in most cases with zero down payment. Oftentimes the interest rates are less than other loan programs, such as a conventional loan. In some cases, they do not have the VA equivalent of a mortgage insurance. You have mortgage insurance on conventional loans. In some cases, a veteran does not have to have their version of the mortgage insurance. If they receive VA disability income, they're exempt.
Okay.
So that's one of the several features that is quite a benefit to the veterans.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Second question for you. Is a down payment ever required for a VA loan?
That's a good question as well. It can be. Veterans can finance, if they don't have any outstanding VA loans, there's no limit on what they can finance. Now, there used to be a limit on that, but a couple of years ago they removed that. So they can finance 100%, even if you get up into the higher loan amounts that are considered jumbo loan amounts, which in this case is anything over $806,500. So zero loan amount, or down payment, zero down payment. So basically, when a down payment would come into the scenario would be if someone has an outstanding VA loan and perhaps they want to hang on to that house and keep it. You can turn it into a rental even though it has a VA loan on it. Or maybe you're just not going to sell it until after you close on a new home. So what we would do is we would pull their certificate of eligibility, which we can pull from the VA portal. They can also access that as well if they would prefer, but lenders have access to that. So we would pull their certificate of eligibility, see how much they've used, then we do a calculation. So when you have an outstanding loan already, and you're not going to be paying it off before closing on a new house, we have to look at what you've used and subtract it from whatever the conforming loan limit is that year. This year it's $806,500. So if you've used $400 on a previous home, then we subtract that from the $806,500. You would have $406,500 available that you could finance up to 100%.
Okay.
So if someone's going out and buying another home for $400,000, then there would be no down payment. If you're buying a house that exceeds that, though, let's say you go over that by $100,000, and then anything that exceeds that, you're going to pay 25% down payment. So if you go over what you have available by $100,000, you're going to pay $25,000 down payment, which is 25%.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you just explained a situation that could require someone to have to make a down payment. But it also sounds like you gave a scenario where someone can actually buy another home using their VA benefits when they already have one on their current home. Is that correct?
That's correct, absolutely.
Okay. So if they were to do that, is there a time frame that you have to remain in your first home?
Yes, it is considered to be 12 months. If you move in and start making changes to your living situation, typically less than 12 months, that's not going to work out very well for you. Unless there is extenuating circumstances that cause you to have to move, then you're expected to stay in that home for at least a year after you purchase it.
Okay. I would assume if you have a service member who got orders, that would be something outside of their control. Would that be an exception?
Possibly, but not typically.
Okay.
Many of our service members do have homes where they don't live.
Okay.
They're stationed somewhere else, and they have a family that lives in one state, and they're stationed overseas, or they're stationed somewhere else, which, by the way, they can do as well.
Okay.
So it would have to be a pretty special situation for you to have an excuse to not live in it for at least 12 months, or have your family occupy it for at least 12 months.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, that means that you can also purchase a home using your VA loan if you are overseas, or if you are not necessarily with your family. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can have what we would consider, what I would just call your home base.
Mm-hmm.
This is where your family is going to live. This is where they're going to be. Not all families travel and move around, not able to move around with the service member. So in that case, they live somewhere in the States, and that's their home, and the service member goes out to the different areas where they're stationed.
Okay. Awesome. So tell me, Cindy, are you able to use your VA home if you are doing new construction and building from the ground up?
Yes, and that is one of the most exciting aspects for me. I've been in this business a long time, as I mentioned earlier, and I've actually worked in different states, and I have never worked in an area that I was aware of a lender that provided a VA construction loan. I had always heard of them, but I'd never been exposed to one or heard of anyone offering those, and they are still, it seems this many years later, hard to find. Avadian does offer a true one-time close VA construction loan so that a veteran or service member can build their home and use a VA loan.
Great. So that means if I purchase my own land, I can do a custom built home using my VA loan, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that can actually be on the loan with me if I'm doing a home with a VA loan?
Yes, but it is limited. Typically, you can always have a spouse be on the loan with you. You do have to be married. If you have a fiance or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, they cannot be on the loan with you. You do have to be married. You can have another person that you're not married to on the loan with you if they're a service member or a veteran and have eligibility.
Okay.
You can also have, as I mentioned before, you may have a service member that wants to be on the loan with maybe a parent that is a deceased spouse of a service member who died with a service-connected situation.
Okay.
So there are other situations, but it's just not quite as open as it is with other loan programs.
Right. So in essence, I can't co-sign for a house for my child with a VA loan, and that would not fly, correct?
Absolutely, you cannot do that. We do get a lot of children of veterans and service members that want to get the VA loan themselves, but that doesn't work either.
Absolutely. the questions that I always get when I'm meeting with first-time home buyers who are using their VA loans is they oftentimes think that the VA is going to send somebody in there to inspect the property. Is that the case?
Yes, but let me explain further. The loan is going to require an appraisal be done by a VA approved appraiser. Now, this just means that this appraiser has gone through the steps to get on VA's approved list and is on the rotation of appraisers that the appraisal can be assigned to. So they're going to go out and appraise the property, but they're doing it for the lender purposes, for lender and for VA, to make sure that the house is meeting the standards of condition, make sure there's no health or safety hazards, which is, also to protect the family that will be living there.
Right.
It is not the same as a home inspection though. Again, it is solely for the purposes to meet the criteria for the lender and for the Veterans Administration. If you go out and get a home inspection, that home inspection that you're going to get on your own, that you would pay for separately yourself as outside of the loan process,
Right.
that is going to go much further in depth. The inspection is going to check so many more things than what the VA appraisal would do.
Correct.
That is the one that is very comprehensive and will really dig deep into things in and around the house that will give you the knowledge you need to know to make an informed decision on a home.
Right. Now, I always suggest that people have a home inspection done. So, I definitely wanted to bring that point up, in connection to some of the questions that I usually get.
That's a good question, because people do often think that the appraisal is all that's necessary and that when that's done it covers them, but it does not. Not
Right.
the same way at all.
So what about settlement costs? How much does the VA allow a seller to pay on behalf of the buyer towards their settlement costs?
Well, there's a common misconception that VA limits the seller paid concessions, closing costs paid by a seller to 4% of the sales price. That is true, but people often misunderstand what they mean by seller concessions. VA does not consider a seller paying for your closing costs to be a concession, as
Okay.
long as it's typical in the area and it's not overly excessive for what's generally taking place in the market in your area. And the way we know that is when the appraisal is done. If it comes back and the appraiser makes a note that these closing costs are excessive for the area, then the amount that is considered to be excessive would be a concession, and it would need to be less than 4%. But by and large, everyone in this area, we have not had an issue with that. It is never an issue for the seller to pay closing costs. It's not considered towards the 4%. The concession comes in when they're giving you a refrigerator, or someone's giving you part of their commission, or just things that are outside the normal typical settlement costs.
Okay. Wonderful. I thank you so much for meeting with me today and talking about doing VA loans. I think that's something, especially in our area, that we get a lot of people that have interest in. So thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thank you so much. I was happy to be here, and I'm happy to help anyone that needs help.
Wonderful.